Hey Huma, how's it going?
Hey, I'm
My
good. How are you?
goodness,
How are
good. I
you?
just came from a walk. So sunny here. How's it in Toronto?
It's good. It's good. It was raining yesterday, so it's cooler today. But yeah, we're back, I guess, to continue
Yes, we
on
are
and
back.
discuss our topics that we've been wanting to talk about.
Yep,
I'll introduce myself again. I'm Homa, and you are.
Noreen. Welcome to our channel. Yes.
Welcome to our channel. And we last time we were speaking of Black Lives Matter, and we talked about a lot of current issues.
Hmm.
But today, I think we wanted to focus on just a narcissistic personality disorder and how to recognize it.
Yes.
And I know predominantly in the South Asian community, we don't have that much information. So yeah, we wanted to just kind of quickly chat and go through the signs of how you can actually decipher whether the person that you are having problems with is a narcissist or not, and just look at the signs and go through the list. Go ahead, your thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really excited about this because it's something that is within our communities. Why specifically the channel or just the audience is for everyone is geared
Hmm.
towards our Desi communities.
Hmm.
And that's where it's because it's a silent epidemic, I think,
It is.
within our communities.
Yeah.
So let's how about like we go through narcissism.
Yeah,
So,
definitely. I think a couple of things that we don't really focus on is mental health in
mhm,
our culture. It's kind of like passed aside, you don't kind of focus on that. And then any kind of toxicity is very that's just how it is, just deal with it type of situation. So yeah. So because we both had close experiences for years and years and years
mhm,
with these types of situations,
mhm,
yeah, we both thought it was important to kind of outline it. So I have a little list here. So there's two things. There's a narcissist, and then there are people who sometimes take on characteristics of narcissism, and you begin to question, am I the one with the problem? But let's talk first of all. The first sign that I would say typical of a narcissist is a grandiose sense of self, like an overinflated ego, and a belief that they are above the rest. So what's your
mhm.
experience on that?
Well, it's it's kind of an interesting kind of to say also too is that narcissism. There's obviously a spectrum, and
Hmm.
everyone at some point is going to be hitting those marks.
Hmm.
So grandeur, confidence is different from being this,
Yeah.
because, kind of a person that is entitled to the attention and
Right. Right.
taking over space. Because
Right.
when we go through the list, and quite frankly, it's better. It's start off with self introspection because all of
Hmm.
us do carry that, right?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah. So for me, I find generally workspaces, family, of course, in a
Hmm.
patriarchal structure, especially,
Hmm.
that is a big one.
Yeah, yeah.
Personally, what do you think?
So they feel the need to control every person, every situation according to how they want it to turn out or how they want things to play out. A perfect example that the whole world gets to see is the
Hmm.
Donald Trump type of an
Yes.
overinflated ego. There's a lot of arrogance. There's no self-reflection. It's always everybody else's fault. There's always excuses for their behavior. Anything or everything to get out of accountability for any toxicity that
Hmm.
they put across, yet everybody else is there to tolerate them and serve them. So the grandiosity, I think it could be one of two things. Either they have absolutely no empathy whatsoever, which goes upon the sociopathic levels where they don't give a crap about who they hurt, what they do.
Hmm.
And the other part could be that it stems all from an inferiority that they have within themselves. Like they know that they are not worthy, so they overcompensate by trying to
Hmm.
control every aspect of everything, you
Right.
know. And yeah, we see that a lot with the patriarchy, and women are like that too, but predominantly in South Asian culture, I find that it's generally the men that have been known to be the controllers or the deciders or the ones that kind of decide everybody, how everybody lives and does. And a lot of the parental child relationship is also that rather than understand or listen to our children, we want to
Hmm.
control them. We
Hmm.
want to make sure that they do exactly what we need them to do to make us look good. And
Yes.
that, I think, is more a lot in the Desi culture, that we face that a lot. um,
Absolutely.
yeah. So yeah, and that's one of the main things, is the grandiosity and the feeling of, it's my way or the highway.
Yeah.
uh, you
the
know, and,
finality of it, because it's like,
yeah.
if you don't agree with me, oftentimes they will, we'll speak about it later, is discard you,
Yes.
block you,
Yes.
because
Yes.
suddenly they're so fragile, their egos are so fragile, their self-centered self is so
Yeah.
fragile that
Yeah.
see you later. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's funny because there's two types of narcissists, right? There's overt and then there's covert, and
Mhm.
the way that they both function is, I actually prefer the overt narcs more because at least you know what's coming. With the
Yes.
covert narcissists, they're more sinister, they're more quiet, they're more, you know, and that you usually see this a lot in the religious leaders, or you see these, you know, the corrupt church leaders, or Maulvis or pundits, the ones who are secretly abusing people inside their congregations, but then they
Yeah.
have this perfect image. So that's more of the wolf in sheep's clothing type of situation, which I think is more dangerous,
For
because
sure.
the world doesn't really see
Never
that
see.
the reality of it.
Well, I
Yeah,
was
so
gonna
they
just
have.
make sorry to interject, but
No, go ahead.
gender plays an interesting role, because what I find within Desi culture, because of the way
Mm-hmm.
the system is traditionally, where the male generally takes the center point,
Mm-hmm.
narcissism behavior, the grandeur, whatever the word is, behavior,
Yeah, grandiosity. Yeah, yeah.
grandiosity behavior is overall, it's cyclical. So
Yeah.
for the females generally, I find they fall into the covert narcissism. They're shy, timid,
Mm-hmm.
quiet.
Mm-hmm.
It's dead
Mm-hmm.
behind your back.
Yeah,
It's
it is. It is.
manipulative. It's
And it's very,
tearful, the fake tears. It's like
yeah.
dramatic. And it's
Uh-huh.
something that, is, I find, like you said, more sinister.
Mm-hmm. And it's very petty. They're very vindictive creatures.
Yes.
This, like like badle lena. You know what I mean? Like if they feel like their ego has been tarnished, then they need to have a vendetta. And then they don't always do it overtly. It can be very sinister and covert. It can be
Yes.
causing division amongst family members, or it can be
Yes.
causing division amongst people that they know they don't want. It's a divide and rule, typical divide and
Yes.
rule. So, and again, it's all like a chess game, right? So they have to control every aspect of every person. It's almost like a game to them.
Yes.
And people tend to be pawns that they use for their own purposes.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's one checklist, topic. There's such long discussions we can have on each one of these
There's so
things.
many. Yes.
And the other thing, again, and I love using Donald Trump because he's like the perfect example to use. They live in a bit of a fantasy world, like their own reality.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that in many times they've created this image of perfection. It is such a huge lie that they begin to believe their own lie.
Yes.
And yeah, you know what I mean? It's kind of
Yes.
it's a diluted state of, whether they screw everything up or they're completely toxic or ruining people's lives, in their own mind, they've created this image of themselves that, no, I'm absolutely wonderful. I can do no wrong.
Yes.
And that, I think, is the first thing. They always say, if you think you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
So when you're in the room with
Check
a
your
narc,
thermometer, right? Like,
yeah, right.
check yourself.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's another thing, is that they kind of live in their own reality. What's been your experience with that type of person?
Well, the interesting thing about their living in the reality is that
Mm.
confrontation is a big issue with narcissists, whether it's covert or the overt. So when you confront them, they snap out because you snap broken their self reality. But if you've noticed, and if I know you've experienced, is they will situate themselves around those people who they've given a narrative to support this delusion. And this could be family, friends, community members. But people who are suffering within this know a different side, and more like the true side, as opposed to the fake acting side. And this is where it gets very tricky and very insidious and very oppressive for the person.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when you're being victimized by the person, in a spousal case, you could talk about, like, only the wife and the children know what happens inside the home, right? Or the husband and the children if it's a female narc. But the outside world is like, well, this is the most wonderful person ever.
Yes.
This guy is so religious, so sharif,
yes.
so amazing, right?
Yeah.
And it almost like drives you crazy when you're hearing this people talking about this person in this way, and you're like, this guy's a freaking asshole. Like, I mean, you know what I live with, right? Like,
yes.
I mean,
yes.
or in the case of family, it could be whatever the case is. Like, it's generally this, because they need constant praise and admiration, right? For every little thing that they do, they need to be told you're wonderful or you're great or you did a great job. So, and with the religious leaders, or if you look at these very, very good people, very helpful people, they're very helpful to people outside. They'll disregard or discard their own family members or their own wives and husbands. They'll completely discard them.
Oh, for sure. Run them over.
Yeah. But they will go out of their way to help strangers to create this image of I'm such a wonderful person.
Yes.
So again, it becomes such a suffocating situation for the person who actually knows the truth about whoever is, the abuser. And it drives you crazy.
Well, you know what it is? It's the lack of consistency, right? Because the person who's seeing the other side is seeing this, false illusion and delusion. Again, it's difficult for people who are experiencing it to be able to speak out because one, they have centered themselves in the delusion, and it's hard to then speak out because other people don't see that side. And they also, again, manipulative. This is the big one, manipulate the narrative.
Yes.
Truth is manipulated.
And of course.
That is so scary.
Anything to cover up their sinister behavior. Anything to not take accountability for mistakes. And like, who doesn't make mistakes? You know what I mean? For a narcissist, it is impossible. They will never, ever admit that they messed up. It's just, and you can show them evidence. You can bring evidence upon evidence. And there's so many quotes that I read. Like, there's nothing, you could show a narcissist evidence till you're blue in the face and you can't stop them from denying it.
I'm sorry.
It doesn't matter.
I'm laughing because it's so insane.
Right?
Like when you're in it, you think you're crazy. You have evidence in front of you, and when and they're denying,
and they'll turn it around. They'll turn it around, and they'll gaslight you.
It's like you're the person that caused it.
Right. So these are all these terminologies. Sorry, people are watching. They're like, "What is gaslighting?" And I'm like, "Well, I think it's pretty. It's people have heard these terms. There's so many terms associated with narcissistic abuse. There's flying monkeys, gaslighting, there's hoovering. Gaslighting would be when they turn things around and blame you when they've been caught in a wrong action. Immediately, it's starting to put you down and completely killing you and trying to get you to a submissive place where you completely lose your self-worth so that they can gain control again. And when you're in the middle of it, you're so damaged mentally that you start to actually believe it or question yourself. And it takes a lot of experience and a lot of, dealing with this type of personality to kind of come out of it and be like, oh my God, no, I'm not falling for it again with this, you finally realize that it's not you, that it's them.
That was actually a key point. I just want to jump off of that a little bit too. Is like for the viewer, whoever's watching this, is one is that the space you're holding at that point make you feel like what they're saying is true. The vulnerability point that you're at, because they maybe they hit below the belt. They're guttural with their words. And some parts may have some truth to it, but it's so exaggerated. And it's so unjust that you sometimes wonder, did I? Because you're an empath, the person who feels, you can self-reflect. And you take on the responsibility of the lie that they've created, even if it's a lie, right? Like you think, okay, did I do that? So I just hope that that's a wake-up call to anyone watching, that if you're feeling like this is not true, it's not.
It's not true. Go with your gut. They're very shameless people as well. They have no guilt and no shame. Like you can, like a normal thing, like if somebody caught you in a lie, or you feel some sort of humiliation, or you feel some sort of shame. Right? This is why. There's no shut up. They're the most beshut people. And for an empath who like has these normal, natural feelings, you cannot understand how somebody can be this way, but they're just a completely different type of person. Like their brains don't work the way that a normal feeling empathetic person's brain works. There's no guilt. There's no guilt. There's no shame. And that's why a lot of us get stuck or continue to stay stuck in toxic relationships, because we can't comprehend how somebody can be this way, and we try to fix it. And a lot of women do this with toxic men.
Kind of going there too is that women do it, they may realize they're toxic, but then family
Oh my goodness.
They push
That's
it.
it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I know you have a lot to say about this,
No,
but
no, but that's exactly correct. Yeah.
yes. So it's in terms of what was I going to say? Yeah, vulnerability, responsibility, the thinking, the psychology. Sometimes it's hard to understand, or
Hmm.
it has been still. I know for me,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
psychology of understanding a narc. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
This is
No,
my
you're
key
never going
message.
to.
It's
You're
not your
never going to.
responsibility to
Yeah.
fix, right?
It's not.
Yeah.
You need to,
Yeah.
the only solution to a person like that is complete no contact, cut yourself off. You may have to let certain things go, which is very difficult because it can take you
Yeah.
years. Everybody wants closure. Everybody wants to feel a sense of justice when they've been wronged or
Oh,
lied to or betrayed. But you have to understand that that's never going to happen with somebody who's of this mental uh, state. They just have no. You're never going to get the closure that you're never going to get answers.
that
You're never
is
going to get truth. Yeah, it is. So
yes.
so that's one thing. And then it's a constant. So another term I want to talk about is flying monkeys, which is a funny term. It actually originates. This is in narcissistic abuse. There's a lot of terminology, but flying monkeys would be one that stems from the Wizard of Oz, that we've all seen that. So the witch had her flying monkeys that she would send out
Right.
to attack to
Right.
attack the target, which was Dorothy in the movie. So that's where that term came from.
Mm-hmm.
And in a lot of toxic marital situations, you will see that, let's say, for instance, the bohu or the daughter-in-law is the one that's being oppressed or suppressed by her husband. And then, he's got his minions, which could be his family members, or sometimes, they go as far as to manipulate the girl's own family to be
Yep.
the flying monkeys to her, because it's always her fault, or that type of situation. So they're the recruits.
Yeah.
Either these people are unaware of the reality of the toxic narc, of what they're really like. They fall into the fantasy of this person is wonderful, or they're of similar personalities or similar narcissistic type of thinking, where
Mm-hmm.
they just support their own kind. Sorry, go ahead. Your turn.
Oh no, the flying monkeys. I mean, the term itself is just hilarious. Like, we're just conscious of this image of a
It
human
is
beings,
funny.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's interesting too. Is that with the flying monkeys, I find the flying monkeys can also be ignorant,
Yes.
and I'm not saying
Yeah.
like dumb, but like ignorant to truth,
Well,
because the
the
manipulation,
delusion.
the
Yeah, they believe
delusion,
that.
they
Yeah,
believe,
they believe.
because again,
Yeah.
especially if they're covert and shy and timid, you're like, oh,
Mm,
poor person, oh,
yeah.
like, poor guy
Yeah.
or poor girl, and this is my
Bichara,
sibling, or
bichari.
my,
Yeah.
yeah, or my
Yeah.
husband
Yeah.
or wife or whoever, right?
Yeah.
And you fall into it. So good people can become
Mm-hmm.
flying monkeys, and I can
Yes.
look back and think
Yes.
I could have been a flying monkey at some point.
Absolutely, because
Yeah.
they don't know the truth, right? So it's like
Yeah.
extended, relatives or family, or people who aren't aware of the internal workings of what's actually going on inside the home. They just believe whatever the narcissist tells them. So, and that's hurtful too, because, it could be your own relatives. If you're in a spousal situation, it could be your own family members or your own extended family members who you need on your side, but they're falling for this narrative that, oh no, she's doing something wrong, or whatever the case is. But in family situations as well, it could be, it's just very, very difficult and toxic. So yeah. So basically what ends up happening is the victim is isolated and constantly bullied, intimidated, and kind of made to, like, your self-worth is so killed and so beaten down that you almost don't have, you're drained. You're at the brink of losing your sanity, and then you're just too drained, and that's all done by design, enabled to keep control of the victim. So these are things that I know a lot of women and some men in our community, they live through it. They don't even realize they're living through it, because it's a strange kind of grooming that's been done, where you're told that this is, that's just how it's supposed to be.
Yes.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on that?
The thing about this is, especially in our basic communities, I'm going to talk about this obsession with consumerism and wealth.
Mm-hmm.
So when they see people who are, because narcissists, actually do well in this, because especially in our communities, right? All this stuff needs to be there. All this wealth has to be accumulated. So if the wealth is being accumulated, then that delusion becomes even more, because a person can't be a bad person if they have accumulated.
If they're successful,
If they're
or
successful.
if they're,
So it somehow ties into that, and then it's difficult to, again, if they're also too, if their profession, they're a teacher, a lawyer, whatever, police officer, whatever it is, right?
Doctor is big. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big
Add
one.
that on, then good luck, because you will be in this oppressive situation.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's a very status-based culture that we have. Like, the degrees matter, the amount of money that you make matters.
Yes.
People are constantly judged by, you know, how much material wealth they have,
Yes.
or on the other hand, it could be how religious you are. So those are the two things that I think narcs play off of.
Yes. Yes.
It's either their worldly success, which gives them a position of power over, you know, they're able to impress people and coax them, or they're very, very ultra religious, or very, very good people that way, or very charitable. And again, it's very difficult for the outside world to kind of recognize that. So it's very suffocating for the people that, you know, internally deals with it. Again, it's all ego, right? So they constantly need to be told how wonderful they are, how successful they are, how religious they are, or even if they're not, just how good of a person they are. A lot of them are very helpful, charitable people to the outside world, and I don't think it's, see, a narcissist's intent when they're helping someone is more for the admiration or the credit that they're going to receive of being told you're such a wonderful person for doing that, rather than the actual act of helping someone, right? So there's an old Italian saying, I remember a friend of mine telling me that, you know, his dad used to tell him, do good and forget it.
Yes.
Like, do something good and forget it.
Forget about it. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And my dad used to say that too. There's a Punjabi version. It's a neki karo kuch pao, meaning like do a good deed and throw it in the well. Like throw it in the, you know what I mean? Forget about it. But for a narcissist, even that is a way to gain admiration.
Yes.
And because they're so insecure on the inside that they constantly need that validation in one way or another. So everything is like feeding them. So they suck off of these energies.
Yes.
And they'll drain you in the process, like drain the person that is immediately in contact with them.
Right. And or manipulate. If they do help, they remind you that they helped.
Yes.
And then they manipulate it to push, you know, because as opposed to forgetting something, they will say, well, at that time, you know, so they bring those things up. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. And there's no empathy whatsoever, right? Like you can, you know, I've dealt with narcissists, like they will, and this is the most hurtful part of it, is because you yourself have genuine feelings for somebody. And I know in a lot of spousal situations, or it could be child-parent situations, where either a parent is struggling for a genuine reaction from a child, or a child is struggling from that genuine love and reaction from a parent.
Yes.
And a narcissist is the type of person, you could literally be in front of them and be sobbing and crying and falling apart, and there's absolutely no care whatsoever. You will not see even a glimmer of feeling, empathy. And it's the worst if it is, I mean, you know, can you imagine being a parent to a child, or a child to a parent situation where, you know, especially with children, all they want is the acknowledgement of their parent, or the love of their parent. And you know, when your own parent can be so cold and so harsh, which in a lot of Desi households is like,
for sure.
You know, if you don't do it our way, we'll disown you.
You know?
And there's so much pressure on kids. And there's a great doctor that I've started following, Dr. Shefali. I don't know if you've heard of her.
She's amazing.
She's amazing.
Oh, wow.
And
she's great.
So she's a very good one to follow. She talks a lot about the parent-child relationship of, you know, how damaging it is for children when they don't have that love from their parents, that unconditional acceptance and love. So,
absolutely. No, you know, it's interesting about that is what I find to be consistent with all the narcissists in my life has been that this part, the lack of empathy to emotion. Actually, the response sometimes is even rage.
Yes.
Upset. That you're having an emotional reaction and you're upset. You know what I mean? You know? So they get upset with you, and then they throw it on you because they don't want to feel any kind of discomfort that they have upset you in any way.
And it's so like, there's nothing worse than that, because you're because sometimes like all you kind of want, you know, I mean a normal person, when you hurt somebody, maybe if you're really angry, you do it in the spur of the moment. You feel that rage into it, but afterwards you have that kind of thought of, oh my God, you know, maybe I misspoke, or you feel the need to maybe apologize or make amends. And, you know, a normal person, like, you know, it happens with me and my son all the time. Like, I know that I will say stuff or whatever, but then afterwards I have to check myself and be like, oh my God,
Yes.
you know, so I will apologize. And this is a huge thing in Desi culture. Parents don't apologize to their children. Right? They will never lower their, it's like, you know, bade jo kehte hain, like, respect your elders, which is fine. You absolutely should. But we have to be real and understand that there's a lot of elders out there that are not good people, or there's a lot of messed up elders out there. If you look at, you know, child abuse statistics in Pakistan, or if you look at a lot of things, right? Like, once these elders were young people who were possibly corrupt young people or screwed up young people. So you have to really use your judgment, and see, you know, respect is not something that you just blindly give, right? To anyone. In my eyes, you have to earn it. And, you know, the moment that you catch somebody in a lie or catch somebody in betrayal, that's an automatic cancel out of respect. And a lot of times in the husband-wife relationship too, it's like, you know, respect your husband. You know, it's like, you know, he's a lying, cheating scumbag. What am I going to respect him for?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Like, you know, what about my human rights within this? The conversation always should have an element of human rights. If your rights are being infringed on, you need to reevaluate, like, what's going on here.
And this is what we spoke about last time. So the whole way the system and the Black Lives Matter is the same type of dynamic where you know, the system is like, well, you know, we don't really care about your rights, and you know, you just you know what I mean? Like,
just stick to the status quo. Stick to the script. And that script can also be, let's say, even if it's altered, but it's also impeding on others, then you are still causing the problem. This is I want to make one point is empowerment doesn't mean that you have a right to then to infringe on other people's rights. So even if you're not a narc, you suddenly will exhibit narcissism. Suddenly you're wanting that power back through a different means, right? So changing the system doesn't mean you should become a narc yourself. I just want to say that's what I'm seeing.
No, definitely.
That's exactly.
There's a lot of things. So another trait of a narcissist is they're very envious. They're very jealous people. Like I said before, petty and jealous. Like, you know, they can never see anybody doing better than them, or it's an automatic competition. And again, that stems from needing that their grandiose egos. They need to be the best at everything. They have to have the best image of being the, you know, best at everything, or whatever the case it is. But they can never see anyone else happy or content or doing better than them. And it almost like, and there's so many people like that, right? So, and you see it often, you know, like, I mean, I like it. You see the whole, in the Desi culture, the whole idea of, you know, aunties talking about how their son is better than so-and-so son, or, you know, mera beta doctor hai, ya meri beti nahi, doctorate khatam kariye. You know what I mean? Like, they're always one-upping each other. So it's almost always this competitive nonsense that, you know, which is really sad, because again, the pressure comes upon the children at the end of the day. You know.
So within this kind of attitude too, is what happens is family relations get messed up too with a narc. Is if you don't live up to the expectation, they will discard you.
This is it.
That expectation can be through a parent, a sibling, a cousin, whoever. And they will then discard you because you're not living up to the delusion. And
you're refusing to enable their delusion.
Exactly. So, and just live your life. But if it's not measuring in terms of wealth, or in terms of the facade that they carry, they will then block you and discard you. And this is, you know.
And that's the easiest way, because then in that way they don't have to, you know, they don't have to look within themselves again. A lot of times in toxic families, you know, if there's secrets, or if there's something that mistakes that have been made by the parents, the flying monkey children will be the ones that, so I mean, it's usually there's a golden child, and then there's a scapegoat, and the golden child is kind of the extension of that narcissistic parent. They're the perfect child. That child can do no wrong in the eyes of that parent, because that child consistently enables that parent or hides that parent's wrong behavior and covers up whatever. Like, they can do no wrong. So it's kind of a weird situation where they're constantly you know, feeding off each other or protecting each other, or whatever you want to call it. And then you've got like that whistleblower child, or that a black sheep child that you may want to talk about, who doesn't put up with it. It's like, hey, no, you screwed up. Like, you need to take accountability for that. or like you lied, or you're doing something wrong, pretty much.
Right.
And they're usually generally discarded from the family, or looked down upon or frowned upon, right?
Right.
As being troublemakers, or whatever you want to call it. When in fact, they're probably the most honest ones within the household, and refusing to keep up the facade. And so in a lot of Desi families, I feel it's a lot of creating this image of perfection.
Yes, this is actually this, I think, is an issue too. Is first of all, the golden child and so forth. If you have like let's say more than one child, or more than two even, what's going to happen is even the narc may think that the other person is a golden child. Jealousy and envy, and also how the perception is working within the structure. But when it comes to the basic communities and the facade, that's creating narcissistic culture. Because again, the facade plays into the psychosis psychologically that affects everybody.
And the sad part is, like I said, we don't talk about mental health. The toxicity within the culture that we enable, as far as the fakeness and the pressure on the children, or the pressure on the girls, and to get married, to be perfect children, to be the doctor, lawyer, engineer, just to have this perfect image. The mental stress that it puts upon the children, and then they act out, or they'll turn to whatever they turn to. It could be drugs, could be alcohol, could be whatever the hell it is.
Right.
And then we'll turn around and judge them on how they're dealing with it.
We created it.
Yes.
We created it, and suddenly if they're doing like whatever drugs, whatever it is, to survive, mentally survive. One of the things I always say is you can't pray away mental health.
No, you cannot.
Or you can't. If there's a mental illness, you can't. You need some sort of supports in other ways. It could be a combination. I'm not going to diss any private, of course not. But
no, of course not.
But I'm saying that it has to be an intellectual integration.
Of different an acknowledgement. An acknowledgement. First of all, everybody has, depression, and these are normal human feelings, right?
Sure.
So, but we have to understand that, narcissistic abuse over years and years and years and years can cause so much trauma on an individual. They will end up with post-traumatic stress. They won't even know that they have it. And a lot of times, like, they'll exhibit, because they're so it's like a growing up in an alcoholic home, right? Or a child of an alcoholic. They tend to abuse is a cycle, right? They'll repeat the same behaviors that they saw their parents doing. And the same thing with that narcissistic household or marriage. It's like that's your normal. You become so used to it that that's what you know. So which is why a lot of people who've had homes or home lives that have been toxic, when they grow up or look for a spouse or a partner, they tend to gravitate towards very toxic people, and they'll bring because that's what they're used to.
That's their norm.
They think that the abuse is normal, or they think that being bullied or belittled, or you tolerate it, or whatever the case is. So that's and it takes a toll. So post-traumatic stress is huge. So it can trigger. So anything that triggers a hurtful period, because it's such an emotionally draining and painful situation to live years and years and years with a toxic person, either in a family system or a spouse, that there's so much pain involved. So once you get out of it, you're left with all this baggage, this emotional baggage. And I know for myself, like I deal with PTSD almost, and I don't struggle with it. I've learned to cope with it. And I say that I survive it because I've learned how to maneuver my reactions or responses, and it takes a long time to do so. And I don't know, like, I'm sure you've done this too. You start to question yourself, am I the narcissist? Because I have these anger outbursts, or I have these horrible emotional breakdowns, or sometimes after you dealt with it, you exhibit those same behaviors that the abuser exhibited on you. And you ask yourself, maybe I'm the one that's got the problem, or maybe I'm the one that's toxic. Go ahead.
It's it's interesting that I'm glad you spoke about this a bit more. Is one, I'm just going to be honest, I've been I go to therapy, I've been to therapy, because you need to. Second part here is that no one's saying that everyone, there's a dance in every kind of relationship.
Yeah.
So being even like on the receiving end, there are some minimal or whatever contributions. So self-reflection does have to happen in terms of, okay, how did this, dance occur? There was two people kind of playing this. So also taking accountability still at particular actions, but also getting the proper therapy to recognize that, how can you prevent yourself from entering into those relationships, or, even, to be honest, improving one's self-esteem.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I think, how did I even let that happen? Like now today, how did I even like let that slide? Like,
I know.
So
well, hindsight is 2020, right? Like I said, when you're in this situation, you're so groomed by that person.
Yes.
You're so isolated from the outside world. You're so groomed and conditioned to think that this is normal behavior.
Yes.
That you just deal with it and you let it go. So that's the classic thing is, so a narcissist will divide and rule within the family, or isolate you from your family members, just so that nobody sane on the outside can come and tell you, you know what, this is not normal. Like, this is an effed up situation.
Absolutely.
So they don't want you talking to other family members who may have influence on you. Yes. Or, you know what I mean? Because they lose their control, or they'll be exposed. Yes. So it's always divide and rule. Any, family member or person that causes discord among relatives or separation, they're playing some sort of game. Because a normal person would want unity, right? A normal person would be like, you want the family together, you want the family happy. Or, a spouse would be like, sure, you should be close with your family members. Yes. But the automatic reaction is to isolate you from anyone who cares about you, so that you don't get, you don't realize the truth of what's happening to you.
Absolutely. So you're actually in a state of ignorance.
Yes.
It's abusive, blinding, and you're alone, because you're part of that delusion, and you can be hurting your own family while you're in that relationship, because you're saying, well, I don't want to talk to you. No, you're wrong. You're wrong. Yeah. They are right. They're right. They're right. And when finally the balloon bursts, that's when, the reality sets in. Yeah.
It happens a lot in Desi culture, where you get men who are stuck between their mom and their wife. Yes. Right? Yes. So either the mom can be a narcissist and be causing problems between the husband and wife, or it could be the wife that is very, very, very controlling and narcissistic and causing problems between the husband. And so the guy is kind of stuck in the middle. And I see it all the time. And, empathetic guys are peacekeeper types, or, obviously they have to pick sides, right? So a narcissistic, like, wife or husband will be like, you better pick me, or I'll make your life miserable on the inside. Like, you know what I mean?
I mean, there's abusive situations that happen. Yeah.
But again, we don't talk about it that way. Like,
no, we don't talk about it that way.
We don't acknowledge that is an abusive toxic situation.
That's an abusive situation. Yes. And if you do call it out, again, the narc in that reality will shut you out, or work to shut you out, and, belittle you, minimize you, dismiss you. Dismissive tactics by narcissists.
Yes.
Oh my God, I wish I could do a course on it.
There's so much.
I swear. No, just so I can take it and use it, because
how use anything.
Quite amazing.
Yeah. So another thing, I mean, and I follow a lot of these, speakers or whatever. The one thing I forgot to mention with the questioning, because I've done this a lot with myself, and I see a lot of people who've suffered or dealt with mental abuse, where the narc will turn around and say, well, you're the narcissist, you're the one of the problem, you're toxic. And so you know what, and then that makes you think, am I narcissist? But let me just point this out clearly. Anybody who's watching, the fact that you can reflect on yourself and even ask yourself that question is 100,000,000% proof that you are not narcissistic. Because a true sociopathic narcissistic person will never question that they are wrong. Will never have the ability to look within themselves and be like, hey, maybe I'm the one with the problem. So that's a good sign, as screwed up as you may be. If you can, like, that's good news. So from there on, it's just,
yes.
Yeah, I know. It's a matter of healing yourself. But sorry, I forgot what we were talking about before this.
We went through the flying monkeys, and we talked about you finished on the dismissal, and then is there anything else on the list that's left before we tie it up?
Yes. So there's so many things. Just think about anything, right? So I know that financial abuse is a big one. So a lot of women who are possibly married and financially dependent on their husbands, the husbands will use the fact that they control the finances to also keep that woman hostage in the home. Or, parents may do it with children, or children may do it with their elderly parents. So financial abuse is a big one too. Anything and everything that can be in the grasp of the narcissist to gain and maintain control over the people they want to just, they feel they have the right to make decisions for that person, their lives. There's no freedom. There's no freedom to breathe. There's no freedom. And there's always that, you're kind of stuck in that situation, and you're always reminded that you're nothing without them. Yes. Or you owe them something.
Yes.
Or even if it's your right, like as a wife, and if you look at it Islamically, you have a legal rights to everything. Like your money is your money, your husband's money, half of it is your money. But a lot of times in our culture, we don't see that fairness. A lot of women are financially suppressed and abused, and they're not giving their rights because of the cultural patriarchy and that weird dominant issue that we have with that.
Yes. So at the end, the key takeaways for this, what would you say are the key takeaway for your perspective for this first upload on this topic?
So I think we were all over the place. There's so many things to talk about.
What's your final takeaway for the viewers? So it's like,
my final takeaway is, number one, I've learned mostly your gut. This is not just like any time in my life where I've ignored my gut feeling about something, I have screwed myself over. It's so basic. Like life, honest to God, is very easy because that gut is your conscience. That gut is your spirit. That gut is you. If it feels wrong, like look at a child. Like a child will tell you. Like when a child, they sense these things, or animals sense it. So we all have that natural energy within us that tells us something. If you keep ignoring that, then you're setting yourself up for disaster. That's one thing. And the other thing would be that, stop trying to fix people, because I've wasted many, many years of, our formative years. Like I feel like, a lot of women will spend years and years married to a person, or in situations where men and women will spend trying to fix that other person. You cannot fix people. And I would say that if there's anybody watching who's finding themselves in this situation with a personality who is not empathetic, disrespectful, not caring about your feelings, your needs, and just basic respect, does not provide you a basic respect, and narcissists have very fragile egos. It's like, they can dish it out. They can't take it.
They can't take it.
They can't take
That's
it.
So true. They can't take it.
They will do to you whatever the hell they want to, but if you give them a little bit back, they can't handle it.
They can't.
But give it back. No, you need to learn to give it back. And that's where your power comes back, because that's how you're like, hey, wait a minute, they may not like it, but you have to, it's a weird strength that you get from within yourself. But yeah, so don't any kind of disrespectful behavior, as far as lies, betrayal, cheating, anything that you wouldn't do to somebody, if somebody is okay doing that to you, that should tell you that person is something wrong with that person.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say, like, for the same thing, telltale signs, if they lack empathy, then somehow navigate and be more mindful. And then also to have compassion for them, but have compassion for yourself and walk away. And it could be any relationship. And if they do the courtesy of dismissing you or discarding you,
take it as a blessing.
Take it as a blessing, and do a good Bhangra dance and call it a day.
Seriously, right?
Seriously, that's all you can do, because it's something of survival, right? And I know in this conversation we kind of hit on a lot of things. So because it's so nuanced for each experience, but the narc tendencies are the same. It's scary how similar everything was. It's very scary. And even amongst the people that are in my life that are narcissists, some have gone, some have remained. Those characteristics are consistent amongst them. So this is not a joke. Real, because I know some people will be watching this thinking, what are we talking about? Like, but
the ones who are feeling
real,
they know. And we'd love to hear from you, and kind of touch upon, or any topics that you want to talk about or discuss. But again, yes, it's very, very rampant. And the first thing that we need to do is raise awareness in the fact that we have to acknowledge that this is a problem. That it's not normal for anybody to treat another person in a way where they're disrespecting them and not being honest with them, or lying or cheating. Or so you have to understand that this, you know, this is a behavior type. This is their you know, kudrati, they're born this way, I guess.
They're born this way. Yeah. Environmental factors may, but
some of them are,
but if they're born this way, the biggest thing is not taking accountability. If you can't have a rational conversation with them, you know there's something is wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, conversation, there's no communication.
No summit, again, no understanding.
They don't want to have a dialogue, because having a dialogue would mean that they need to actually admit and face their own faults and flaws. And the easiest thing to do is discard you. So you have to understand that is not a wall you want to beat it's not a door that's going to open for you, and you're not going to be able to force it open. You're just going to end up cracking your own skull open and believing all over yourself, you know?
Yeah, so hopefully, I think both of us have done that. We've practiced a few times, so we're hoping that this can assist anyone to be a little bit more mindful and aware, so that you can get out before, you know, you go to the point of breaking your skull.
So at the end of the day, you have to make that decision of, you know what, that's enough. I have to step back, and you have to let go. You have to let go of that need for closure, that need to communicate with the narcissist, because you have to accept that you're not going to change them. They're not going to listen to you no matter what. And to save your own mental health, you have to remove yourself from the situation, and stop reacting the way that you've normally reacted, because at the end of the day, it doesn't make any difference to them.
No.
All it does is ends up hurting you. So again, you got to save yourself, right?
Exactly.
Yourself, right?
Exactly. So at the end of the day, I know it's hard to do. So I guess we'll tie it up now.
I know.
Yeah, we'll tie it up at this point. I know it's so much to talk, but there's so much to say. But for the viewers, any comments, suggestions? Again, we also are welcoming people to come on and have a part, be part of the discussion. Please email us. We have our link on YouTube, and we're hoping this does at least elicit some discussion.
Absolutely. And it's always, good. And I'm sorry that if we're all over the place, but we're going to try to get a little more organized and create more of a flow. But again, this is a little experiment, and just kind of a platform where we hope that, even if one person sees it and can resonate and maybe make, it can help them in some way, then, it's worth it.
Exactly.
All of the crap we went through wasn't in vain, right? So.
Yeah, exactly. It helps someone out there. Okay. Lots of love.
Yes. And we'll see you again soon.
Great.